Hey everyone, today I'm going to be speaking to you about who Jesus was in the flesh. The big idea for today is Jesus was fully God, but he was also fully man. He was susceptible to the same temptations and sins that we face in the world. He experienced similar pain and sufferings of the world, but when he rose all above it, he became our sympathetic Savior. Sometimes it's a little bit difficult to understand Jesus as divine or as God and also as being a man, that he came to earth, that he was a human. And I think the easiest way for us to begin to understand this is to go back to the beginning of Jesus' story here on earth. If you go back to the book of Luke, you can read through the story of Jesus, and you may or may not be familiar with us of this story. Many of us kind of have an idea of the manger scene and what it looks like. Maybe you've seen that decoration or seen that or even put that up in your home today, and we see the shepherds there and we see Mary and Joseph there with little baby Jesus and perhaps some animals situated around there and a few wise men coming to bring gifts to him. But this is where we begin to see the story of Jesus entering the world and experiencing what it was to be human. If we go back to Luke in chapter 2, starting in verse 6, this is after Joseph and Mary went. They had to leave the nation. They had to go to be counted in a census. So they're on the road. They're traveling, and Mary's about to give birth. And so they're trying to find somewhere to stay. And this is where we jump in verse 6. It says, "While they were there, the time came for the baby to be born. And she gave birth," which was Mary, "to her firstborn, a son. She wrapped him in cloths and placed him in a manger because there was no guest room available for them." So we see right here that Jesus had a physical birth, that he was born of a virgin, his mother Mary, and that he was born into the world, and he had a human body. He was human flesh, blood, all of it, organs, hair, all of that. Well, I don't know how much hair Jesus had when he was born. I mean, I guess if you're God, you could kind of design some of that and be like, some good looking hair. But Jesus was born a human. He was a man. He was a child. He was a baby. And it's a pretty incredible thing and so important for us to understand in our faith that yes, there's the divinity of Jesus, that he is fully God, but that he is also fully man, that he had an entire experience of being a human here on earth. And that is so important in our understanding of God the Father and the Son and who he is to us. In Hebrews 2, in verse 17 and 18, it says this, "For this reason he had to be made like them, fully human in every way, in order that he might become a merciful and faithful high priest in service to God, and that he might make atonement for the sins of the people. Because he himself suffered when he was tempted, he is able to help those who are being tempted." So we see here in this verse in Hebrews that he is fully human in every single way. I don't know if you've ever had that thought before and thought about this with Jesus, that he was here in the flesh, and every experience that we've had as humans here on this earth, in this world, that he's had this as well. That Jesus had a human body. He just wasn't a spirit that was floating around here on the earth, that he had a physical body and physical form and everything that went on with that. Jesus experienced hunger. He probably experienced pain, perhaps even sickness. I'm not sure, but he experienced everything in the human body that we experience, all of those physical things. He had all of those happen. And even when he was put to death, his human body was also put to death. It's amazing to think about. That is, he was laid in that tomb and he came back to life. He had a heart, and that heart began to beat again, and that all of the muscles and the rigor mortis that set in, that he had an absolute physical body, that he was completely human, even in the flesh. That when we talk about Jesus in the flesh, that's because he is just like this. You can touch it, you can feel it. We were able to see the people who lived up against and see him. Jesus sat down, he ate meals, he broke bread, he traveled, he walked, all of those things. He was a physical person and he had a human body. Not only that, Jesus had a human mind, that he had his own thoughts, that as much as he was trying to do the Father's will and do those things, that he had a mind. Like he was born as a child, like a baby. He went through those developmental stages, through the adolescence, all of those things, that he had a human mind and human thoughts, that he had human emotions. And I think this is so important for us to grasp, that all the emotions, the range of emotions that we can feel, not just even the negative ones, but even joy, that Jesus experienced joy and laughter and the highs in life and the great things in life and enjoying good company and friends and people, the family, the people around him that he loved, that he experienced sorrow and pain and probably regret and all the other emotions that we feel, loneliness, that Jesus experienced these emotions. Just like you and I can have a range of emotions, and sometimes it can be a roller coaster from one moment to the next, Jesus himself experienced these emotions, just like you and I. And finally, Jesus had a human will. This is really important to grasp, that he was trying to do what the Father wanted. He was trying to do what God the Father asked of him. And it probably wasn't an automatic and easy thing because he, as a human, had his own will. If you've raised children, you know that people have their own will and they don't always want to do what a parent wants to do. And sometimes you can have a really strong-willed child and they're going to do what they want regardless of what you want. Because why? We all have a will. We all have things that we want and that we desire from this life. And Jesus was no different. Jesus had a will. I think we see this the most towards the end of his time here on earth, when he's praying in the Garden of Gethsemane and he's coming before God the Father and it's like, if there's any other way, can we do something else? Do I have to go die on a cross? But he says this famously, not my will, not what I want, but your will, showing that Jesus, in fact, did have a will. He had a human will, emotions, mind, and body. Now, why is this important for us to grasp today? I think this is important because Jesus did not remain a God from a distance, that he entered our world and human experience. And this is so important because we'll see here in Hebrews 4, verse 15, that Jesus is able to empathize with us. It says, "For we do not have a high priest who is unable to empathize with our weaknesses, but we have one who has been tempted in every way just as we are, yet he did not sin." Friends, this is such a powerful truth that Jesus can empathize with us because he's experienced the temptations. He's experienced the emotions. He knows fully what this human experience is like. And why is this important? It didn't say that he had sympathy for us, but he could have empathy. He empathizes with us. Because if you have sympathy, you're just sorry for someone or sorry that they're going through something, which can be a good thing. There's nothing wrong with it. But to take it up to the next step of empathy, when you empathize with someone, you're feeling what they're feeling. You're going through it with them. It's something that you perhaps have experienced, and so you can empathize and feel the emotions and the experience. And so he knows, as our Savior, what it was like to be tempted. And he still loves us. He knows how to help us through these things because he himself has experienced them. He enters into our weakness, our pain, and a total human experience, and he feels it with us. Friends, the humanity of Jesus is an important and foundational truth to the Christian faith. He did not choose to lord over us from a distance, but instead he physically came to spiritually rescue us. That Jesus was here on this earth. He walked it in a human body and had a total human experience. And because of this, we have a Savior who can empathize with us and love us through what we are going through.